Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, October 21st, Duval City Council meeting to order at 7 p.m. If you would all please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Yes.
That was nice.
Mayor Overlander.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
Here.
Councilmember Olin.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer. Councilmember McHenry.
Here.
Councilmember Supple.
Here.
Councilmember Naplin.
Here.
Councilmember Kupel.
Great, thank you. We have a quorum, and under additions and corrections to the agenda, please, we will be postponing Agenda Bill 25-31 till the next meeting. There may be a couple small changes to.
That one?
Yep.
Oh, 51.
Did I say?
You said 31.
Oh, I'm sorry, 51. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll be postponing that to the next meeting, so there's a couple of minor changes that will be coming forward with that. Are there any other additions or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. With that, we will move on to proclamations. We have two proclamations this evening. I'm going to read, we do have someone in the audience for one of them, so I'll read the one that we don't have participants in the audience first. So the first one I'll read into the record is recognizing First Responders Day. Whereas our first responders, a diverse group including law enforcement officers, firefighters, emergency medical technicians, dispatchers, and other dedicated public safety personnel collectively serve as the front line of defense in protecting the lives and well-being of our residents. And whereas these brave individuals, driven by a selfless commitment, respond without hesitation to emergencies, natural disasters, accidents, and crises, often putting themselves in harm's way to ensure the safety of others. And whereas their unwavering courage, professionalism, and compassion reflect the highest standards of public service, demonstrating every day what it means to put community before self. And whereas the City of Duval recognizes that our first responders face challenges that extend far beyond their daily duties, enduring long hours, emotional strain, and the inherent risks of their professions with humility and dedication. And whereas First Responders Day provides an opportunity for our community to actively express heartfelt gratitude for those who sacrifice their comfort and safety to protect ours. And whereas it is fitting that we honor not only those who serve today, but also those who have served in years past, and especially those who made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. Now, therefore, I, Amy Okerlander, Mayor of the City of Duval, do hereby proclaim October 28th, 2025 as First Responders Day in the City of Duval, and urge all residents to take a moment to thank, support, and recognize our first responders. Your gratitude and recognition are crucial in acknowledging their exceptional service and unwavering commitment to our community. Let us always remember that the strength, safety, and heart of Duval are upheld by the courage and compassion of those who run toward danger so that others may remain safe. We are forever grateful. The second one I have to read into the record this evening is Kindness Month, and I'll actually go to the podium to read it so it'll be easier for our guests to come up and accept it. You're welcome to. Okay, I think that makes it actually easier. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, you're welcome. And this is for Kindness Month in Duval. Whereas the City of Duval values compassion, respect, and understanding as essential foundations for a thriving and connected community. And whereas Empower Youth Network coordinates two programs aimed at preventing youth suicide, How to Help a Friend and Be Kind to Snoqualmie Valley. And whereas acts of kindness, whether big or small, have the power to uplift spirits, strengthen relationships, and inspire positive change throughout our neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, and public spaces. And whereas Kindness Month serves as a reminder that empathy and generosity of spirit are not limited to any season, but are daily practices that enrich both the giver and the receiver. And whereas the residents, businesses, and organizations of Duval are known for their willingness to lend a helping hand, celebrate diversity, and create a welcoming environment for all who call our city home. And whereas fostering a culture of kindness promotes mental well-being, builds social resilience, and contributes to a stronger, safer, and more inclusive community. And whereas the profound power of kindness, when recognized, understood, and utilized, has the potential to create a positive ripple effect that can traverse the Snoqualmie River Valley and beyond. And whereas through intentional acts of kindness, such as listening with empathy, volunteering our time, supporting local causes, and showing care for one another, we can make Duval an even brighter and more compassionate place to live. Now, therefore, I, Amy Okerlander, Mayor of the City of Duval, hereby proclaim November 2025 as Kindness Month in the City of Duval. Let us all be reminded that kindness is a ripple. What we send out into the world returns to us multiplied. Together, we can create a community where kindness isn't just an act, but a way of life. We also acknowledge and recognize World Kindness Day on November 13th. Let us take advantage of this day by acknowledging the many acts of kindness that have benefited us, and let's pay that kindness forward.
Thank you. Right. Well, it's fine. I'm sure.
Last one, I promise.
Reading glasses off.
Thank you very much.
If you'll send that to Ethelene,
I will.
is that the same? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so just a quick thank you for your leadership and thank you for joining in kindness by proclaiming November as Kindness Month in Snoqualmie Valley. Empower Youth Network is hosting a series of activities in November to celebrate Kindness Month, promoting kindness, caring, kindness, and compassion within our community. EYN's Youth Suicide Prevention Program, which includes #BeKindSV campaign, makes our schools, communities, and states stronger by facilitating meaningful change through simple acts of kindness. More than ever, our community will benefit from the campaign. EYN is grateful for the support of the community with this effort. In addition to the City of Duval, the following entities and communities have traditionally joined together to proclaim November's Kindness Month. The Snoqualmie Indian Tribe, the cities of Snoqualmie, North Bend, Carnation, Riverview, and Snoqualmie Valley School District. We also want to thank the City of Duval for your ongoing support of our work. During the month of November, families are invited to a free special showing of Paddington at North Bend Theater on Sunday, November 9th. Doors open at 11:30 with popcorn and soda provided. We look forward to celebrating kindness in our community with you. For more ways to support our work, including volunteering for our mentoring or weekend power packs, please visit us at empoweryouth.org or follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'd just like to make a note that we actually have 2 Empower Youth mentors in the room today. So we have a council member McHenry and our city administrator Cynthia McNabb. Both volunteer their time to this fabulous program, for which I know my family is grateful for the program. My daughter loves being in the mentorship program, and I know it provides so much value to many, many folks within our community. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you all.
All right. Now moving on to comments from the audience. Do you have anyone in the audience that would like to speak today? All right, if you please provide the name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Or if you're at the organization, you'll have 5. All right.
Joshua Baker. I live at 26622 Northeast Miller Street in Duval, just a minute away. I have lived here since 2010, 15 years now. I've worked for Microsoft that entire time, and I have not caused any trouble. However, at this point, I am a whistleblower on Microsoft and a number of other major tech corporations, racketeering, and apparent aiding and abetting of the international child sex and torture trafficking network, colloquially or best associated or known with the Epstein files. If you do not know what I mean by the Epstein files, I would encourage you to educate yourself. For now, I will assume that you do. I am a survivor of that network. They survive by virtue of inducing traumatic amnesia in their child victims, such that survivors generally don't remember that they're survivors. The net result is that this network has operated with near impunity for at least 40 years, more likely 50, 60 more. The genesis goes back to Operation Paperclip in 1945, in which the United States, in its infinite practicality, chose to provide American citizenship and cover for approximately 2,000 Nazi scientists and place them in positions of power. Fast forward 80 years and you have a shadow network that is preventing my whistleblowing from being effective. I do not have help. I am almost completely isolated. I have done everything that any citizen could be expected to do and then some. I have spoken with the US Secret Service. I have attempted to speak with the FBI. I have submitted multiple changes. I have appealed to the UN. And the net result is that agreement to the board as LinkedIn suppresses my posts, as Google suppresses and manipulates the search results about me over time to create a story favorable to their legal department. As OpenAI and Anthropic provide search results through their AI, which are ambiguously conscious at this point. That is a statement about humanity, about AI. And the net result is that when you Google me, you don't see me unless you dig or click through more than you really should have to. And if you ask AI about me, it won't really tell you about me. It erases me and substitutes me with something legally helpful to other people. I have been erased out of this country for 40 years. And the only difference between me and the others is that I.
Is there anyone else for public comment this evening? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to approval of our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. With that, we'll move on to scheduled items. My report is first. One thing that I did forget to report on at our last meeting is that I did a few weeks ago, I had the pleasure and honor of participating in my last ever mayor's lunch for leadership ESA. So that was a lovely experience and one that I will miss, but look forward to going to in the future to be with fellow LE graduates and see what the future mayors have to say to the ESA. And with that, I also want to acknowledge before we get into the hard work tonight, the extraordinary work of our finance director, Beth McMinn, and all of our staff on updating our mid-buy budget, on managing our expenses extraordinarily well, and bringing forth some very clear-cut information on our budget this evening. This is, I think, your third budget presentation, or only second?
Well,
Oh, you're right, it's only the second. So, second full.
second full one, that's
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
So Beth, you know, as we all know, Director McMinn has made some significant changes that have been very positive in our budgeting process. That also helps make it be much more clear and transparent to the public through our open document. So thank you for that, Beth. And then moving on to City Administrator's report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, members of the community, both well, no longer here, but maybe online. Cynthia McNabb, City Administrator. We have a short City Administrator update tonight. Lots going on, but at the last meeting, we gave a fairly detailed presentation, so we'll be fairly short and concise tonight, because we know we have a lot on our plate this evening. Take a minute to get that presentation. Okay. Next slide, please. All right, so first, a quick update from community development. We have the MOST design review tomorrow at the Planning Commission. Just an update to council. Unfortunately, we have to have police presence there tomorrow night. We've had some online chatter and a couple anonymous messages that are a little bit concerning. So Planning Commissioner and staff reached out to just ask that we have police there, and so we'll be there. I will also be in attendance at the Planning Commission tomorrow night, but project long time in the planning. The mosque has been working with the city even when we were in sewer moratorium. So it's an exciting opportunity for them to get to come to Planning Commission and present their project. We will have the Planning Commission tomorrow night. We'll also have the first update of the sensitive area ordinance. And then that will come to city council, which will be a first touch on the November 18th meeting. And finally, Larissa and I, was our city engineer. We had a really good meeting with Toll Brothers regarding the commercial lot 5 last week, and kind of setting the stage for the city's expectation around the commercial projects and the commercial development of that property. So a really good meeting, more to come, but I think a very straightforward conversation which needed to be had. Next slide. Just an update from our building team, Opal Beauty Salon at the Riverview Plaza. They put in for a tenant improvement that has been completed, and we've issued occupancy, so we will have a new business ready to open its doors here in the city. Next slide. And then finally, 65 Degrees, the 12 stack flat condo foundation. That footing is close to being done and ready for inspection. So those will be starting to develop out here in the coming months, though, you know, with the weather coming, it might start and then slow down, but excited to see that project come to fruition. Next slide. And then just a few updates for me. Comcast is ready to have their first customer here in the city, and they would like it to be to a Duval nonprofit as part of their milestone of the first customer in Duval being one of our local nonprofits. So I'm going to reach out to them. They have a couple ideas to see who would like to be Comcast's first customer, and some more to come on that as that project develops out. We are beginning a wholesale revision of our code enforcement provisions, since some of them date to the early 1900s, like 1910s-ish. For instance, it's a $25 violation for a dance hall violation. Feels very footloose. So we have some updates to do. I am kind of charmed by some of them, but it's cluttery. So we are going to do a complete revision of the code enforcement provisions. Really looking for clear processes for due process and appeal. So right now, there's not a really defined structure for if you are in a code enforcement situation, what does the first letter look like? What does the second letter look like? What do the fines imposed look like, with a really clear fee schedule? And then what happens if those interventions don't work? Where do you go? Do you go to Superior Court? Do you go to the hearing examiner? It's not terribly clear. We want to make it really clear and transparent for folks that get into a code enforcement situation, but also what the settlement provisions are. Because frankly, not everything should go to a legal process, and it's not clearly defined on what settlement and negotiation looks like. So Ogden Murphy Wallace, our city attorney, is helping us with an associate who's going to help with that work, and we're excited about what that will bring. I think it'll be better for the community, for businesses, residents who get into code enforcement situations, certainly easier for staff. We're beginning the second phase of the Port of Seattle grant. So if you recall, the first phase of that, or the first year of it, funded the Duval Music Hall. The second year is meant to fund the Art and Wine Walk. And so we've met internally, Rita and I, we're going to be reaching out to the Chamber of Commerce and local businesses to start that team to plan it, probably late summer. But we should start planning now for a big event like that. And then finally, I attended the WCIA board meeting on Friday, and our annual rate increase for Duval this year is at -1% for 2026. So excited that that number is in the negative for this year. And so we budgeted fairly significantly, given the last few years of rate increases, for a significant rate increase in 2026. So we're happy that that will be money that goes back into the general fund. And with that, oh, we have one more late addition. Good.
Good evening, Steve Linischewski, Public Works. Just sharing, there is the planning commission tomorrow night at 7, but we are also hosting an emergency preparedness winter weather training for folks tomorrow night at the fire station, 7 to 8:30. So I will probably be there and then rudely listening into the planning commission. But yeah, just a quick update.
Thank you. And with that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for City Administrator McNabb? Seeing none, we can move on.
Oh, sorry, my hand got up too late.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Kupa.
WCIA and, oh, not F on my. acronym.
Yes, Washington
City
City Insurance authority.
Okay, that's our liability. That's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. They do cyber liability, property, kind of our full scale insurance coverage.
Thank you.
Councilmember Napling?
Yeah, I have a question, but I wasn't sure if I should wait until my council report or.
Is it about the city administrator's report? And if it's a question,
It wasn't something that she addressed in the report.
then you should wait until your council report as per normal procedures. All right, any council members have any reports this evening? Councilmember McHenry.
Just a quick one, I can't remember what day it was, but Councilmember Olin and Kufeld and myself were at our council chat. We had one member of the public show up, they just delivered, something they had to tell us just personally, and we just had a nice chat with them. But other than that, we talked amongst ourselves, and it was a quiet council chat. Our next one is scheduled for Thursday, November 13th from 5 to 6 p.m. at CC's. So if anyone wants to go, just reach out and let me know so I can make sure we don't have a quorum.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any other council members with reports? Councilmember Napling.
Yeah, I just wanted to let everyone know if they hadn't seen it, there was an article in the Urbanist and kind of caught me by surprise. It was a very interesting article about our comprehensive plan and the feedback from the community was also interesting. Seemed like a lot of them were sort of excited that the city of Duval had, pushed back. At any rate, in the article, it mentioned correspondence that they had been given or had access to. And I was just curious, as a council member, I would like to see kind of, our correspondence related to the challenge. If that was possible, just to have a more full understanding.
So I would recommend putting in an information request and we're happy to respond to all the information that you might want. We have a current information request that the author of the article put in, so that will be published through next request. So that's another way to see all the information. We're collecting it right now.
So as a council member, I do not have access to that information.
We are in the process of putting it together right now for an information request, but if council members also want to do deep dive and get information, you can put in an information request. I'm happy to provide it. There's no secrets here. We're just in the process of collecting everything, so.
And I would note, once the next requests are filled, that information is accessible online to anyone in the public. So that is part of the joy of our public record system, is that every public records request that's filled is accessible to the public once it's filled and closed in perpetuity. So I would also note, per the article, there's legal issues ongoing. So most of these questions that you may have may be best suited for discussion with the city administrator and the city attorney offline.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we're happy to provide all the information. We're just trying to keep all the requests organized. So if you put in the next request, we can keep it all organized, make sure all the information that we're collecting goes to everybody in the thoughtful, consistent manner. But certainly council members are, able to get that information. I just don't have it all available right now.
Right. Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
And I just wanted to provide a quick, excuse me, update from the October PIC meeting. As with a lot of these meetings, there's a litany of issues we go through. This particular meeting was fairly targeted, and there was part of this I wanted. It's also open nominations for SCA committees for nominations. I think that closes in November. So if anyone's interested in any opening, that was one of the things I wanted to sort of communicate out to the broader council. There may be opportunities to serve. We had a couple of interesting presentations, one on the Indigenous defense caseload issues. A lot of that it's a little more relevant to some of the larger municipalities, but there was a letter that they put forward in terms of some concerns around being able to fill the new quotas essentially that were set based on the law school capacity here and adjacent jurisdictions. But again, I think that the underlying rationale behind it. Everyone was in support of it, was really how they executed. And then we did have a presentation from For Culture on their new Open Doors, which is tied to the 0.01% sales tax increase that was passed in 2025 to free up some additional funding for various arts organizations. And but it was pivoted a little more toward some of the science and industry from projects, which was interesting and cultural aspects as opposed to pure art. So again, there wasn't any particular ask, it was more awareness and sharing. And then there was a brief presentation on open levies and ballots, which again is public record, but sort of sharing the current level of activity. So just wanted to bring that back to council.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Council has written reports in the planning calendar in the packet. We'll move on to our first presentation of the evening, the 25-26 mid-biennium review and budget adjustments with Director of Finance, Beth McMahon.
Good evening, I'm Beth McMahon, Finance Director. So the City of Duval budgets on a biennial budget basis and must provide a mid-biennium review from September 1st and December 31st of the first year of the biennium. The city adopts a biennial budget at the fund level with the full 2-year appropriation available throughout the entire budget period. A mid-biennium review of revenue and expenditures will assist the city in navigating the remainder of the 2025-2026 biennial budget. So our agenda, we're going to do a revenue review, expenditures, and then budget adjustments. So based on previous review of revenue sources, our 2025 revenue is estimated to be above budget due to increased revenue estimates for investment earnings, water charges for services, general facility charges, building permit fees, utility tax, and sales. Expenditures. So building a budget is, well, you can go back, but I'm gonna comment. So building a budget is the first step in managing expenditures, but it takes consistent work throughout the budget period to responsibly track and manage expenses. It's not just about managing expenses to a targeted budget. It's about responsibly managing every purchase to ensure appropriate business justification, compliance with financial policy, with review and approval by department directors and finance. And it is very beneficial to have a financial system that accurately records expenses, allows for internal controls, and produces valuable reporting. So salary and benefits are a large portion of the city's expenditures as it takes skilled staff to deliver all the great services of the city. Noting a few changes here, COLA for 2026 is 3.8% across the board. As expected, medical and dental premium rates are increasing for 2026. There's no change to vision, life, or disability. We also received notices that's not on here that Teamsters dental rates will not increase for 2026. The city of Duval is a AWC Well city, which qualifies us for discounted benefit rates. So as one of the city's largest expenditures, here are estimated spend for salary and benefits. Since general fund is a focus, I've broken out expenses on the slide to represent those. For 2025, the city has experienced low turnover positions. We've carried only 1 or 2 vacancies at any one time. Currently, police and planning carry vacant positions. The remaining departments are fully staffed. COLA increases and the increase in health premiums have been fully budgeted in the 2025-26 budget, requiring no change to the budget at mid-biennium. Salary and benefits are estimated to be within budget for the 2025-2026 biennium. At Q3, as of September 2025, we are 38% through our biennium. Salary and benefit expenses are at 35.9% of budget. And general fund salary and benefit expenditures are at 34.3% of budget. Okay. So overall, through September 2025, the 9th budget of the biennium, representing 38% of the biennial budget period, our Overall expenses for all of our funds are at 34% of budget. General fund actual expenditures are at 35% of budget. One note, I want to point out here is, by the end of 2025, we will have paid off 2 of our 4 city debts. So our wastewater treatment plant construction loan was paid off in June of 2025. And debt for Big Rock Ball Field, funded by the levy lid lift, will be paid off in December of 2025. So our remaining debt is Main Street and a dump truck loan, and you can see how our debt service line is decreasing. And so, except for just a few specific expenditures, the majority of our city expenditures are on track to be within budget. So, budget adjustments. We do have estimated amendments to expenditure appropriations. We have council approved economic development and tourism grant funds in the amount of $11,989, which are supported by strategic funds. So this is new and is not in our current budget appropriation. We have a land purchase for Big Rock Park and the Public Works Maintenance Yard at $1.5 million, which was originally appropriated in our 23-24 budget, but was unspent as the actual expenditure occurred in February of 2025. So we'll need to increase our expenditure appropriation for 2025 to cover the actual expenditures in our facilities and park CIP funds, and that notes the source of funds for that. Our depot building had water damage, and so we had those expenditures hit our building maintenance fund. So those were unplanned, so we'll need to do an increase in the expenditure appropriation for that fund, but we did receive insurance recoveries to cover the cost of that. So there's really no fiscal impact to the city. Also, ARPA. So we'll need to increase expenditure appropriation in the ARPA fund for unspent funds appropriated in 2024 to allow full spend of the remaining grant funds. We didn't fully spend what we anticipated would have been spent in 24, and those expenses are carried over in 25. But the grant, we are on track to fully spend all of our ARPA funds by the first quarter of 2026. So in summary, our 2025 revenue estimates are higher than originally budgeted. Our 2025 expenditures are estimated to be within budget, other than the few specific adjustments noted. Through September 2025, at 38% of the annual budget period, total revenues are at 37% of budget, while total expenditures are at 34% of budget. Like, this is a really good place to be as we approach the end of our first year of our biennium. And I strongly feel that this is a credit to the amazing city staff that work as a team, you diligently plan, work to understand city operational needs, and responsibly utilize city resources. It's not just me that contributes to our financial health. And I wanted to recognize all the staff involved. I look forward to entering our second year of the biennium to continue all the good.
You just, anybody?
There's another slide.
See, do you want to speak? I think there might be 2 more slides.
You've got to share the screen. So go back one. Go back one. Back one. Yeah.
Okay. So, even though we're in the middle of a mid-biennium, there is a process that council can make adjustments, just like we had to make an adjustment to fund the 2025 economic development and tourism grants, and make these kind of line adjustments throughout the budget to reflect what actually happened in the year. But make sure the council has an opportunity, if you want to make a budget adjustment, build out a process for that. So if you would like to make a budget adjustment, please send me an email by November 7th. And I would ask in order to process those budget adjustments, if you would be fairly specific. So what department do you want an adjustment in? What program do you want to augment or eliminate? And then roughly, if it's, augmenting, say, the strategic fund for economic development and tourism, like what, in what amount would you like that augmentation to look like so that we can, by November 18th, take a look at your requested adjustments, develop a potential impact on the budget, and then we'll deliver a list of all those outcomes and cost assessments to you in the November 18 council packet. Questions about that process? Councilmember Nevlin?
This is actually a question about the presentation, but I can, if I guess I was thinking you were saying questions about.
Oh, yeah, no.
Sorry, I
I
apologize.
And I think there's one more slide.
Yeah, you know, it's just next steps. Tonight we'll have public hearing number 1. And then November 18th will be public hearing number 2, and it will be at that time that we can make any sort of approval. No action can be taken tonight.
Great. And then we do have multiple presentations tonight. We have the public hearings, and then we do have discussion for council scheduled under existing business for all of these items. So if council's okay, I would like to keep rolling through the presentations and keep note of the questions that you have for the finance director in the interest of time and the public hearing process. So are there any objections to that? All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, Director. Again, next we have the 25-26 revenues and 2026 property tax levy and fee schedule.
She's pulling this up. Property tax is the largest source of revenue in the general fund for the city of Duval. Property tax revenues are unrestricted and can be used for any lawful government. So next slide. So we're just going to walk through the process where tax dollars go, tax calculations, levy rate, and then an example. So process. The city can increase their total regular property tax amount by the maximum of 1% per year plus additional for new construction. Washington's property tax system is budget-based. Under the budget-based system, the city establishes its desired levy amount first, and then assessed valuation is used to calculate the levy rate that property owners must pay. Okay. This slide contains information from King County Assessor's Office regarding where property tax dollars go. This is our example property for Duval. The 2025 levy rate was 8.7275 per 1,000 in assessed value. So 2026 calculations. So based on information provided to the city from King County Levy Administration, this chart shows our prior year levy plus 1% increase along with the increase for new construction, adding in prior year refunds for 2026 allowable levy is $2,164,379. You'll see that new construction assessed value is down for 2026. And the end of our levy lid lift reduces our levy to the regular levy limit. So the levy for 2026, not including new construction amounts, is a decrease of just over $500,000. So the levy rate is calculated by taking the allowable levy divided by current assessed value. Here are the levy rates for 2026 along with the previous 2 years. So this is our example property for the city of Duval. This slide with its many colors is from the King County Assessor's Office website, and it shows actual property tax paid for this property over the last few years and how it's allocated. So this chart shows the history of city levy rates. For our example, Duval property, the 2026 city levy for this property is based on the 0.74008 levy rate, and it would be $847.39 based on 2026 assessed value. And if we went a little too fast through those slides, we can definitely go back and allow you some more time. A lot of data. So next steps is public hearing, discussion and decision. I do want to point out that our deadline for our levy lid ordinance to King County is November 30th.
But this is one where you could take a decision tonight, 'cause the second hearing.
We can take a decision tonight, yes.
Thank you, Director McMinn. Moving on to our third presentation this evening, we have a proposed staffing plan for the Department of Community Development by City Administrator. Oh, sorry.
Fee resolution. It was combined as one item, but there's actually two separate presentations.
Oh, okay, let's go ahead. Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
Okay.
We are just moving along. So
Yeah, we were. Okay, so 2026 fee resolution. So the city of Duval establishes fees by resolution. These are reviewed annually to ensure the charges for services provided by the city are appropriate. So recommended fee adjustments and changes for 2026 are based on best practice and resolution, utilizing specific economic indicators such as consumer price index for urban areas and engineering news record construction cost index and the International Code Council. Next slide. So the following fees are set to increase by the preceding 2-year June to June average of the Seattle Tacoma Bellevue CPIU, which for 2026 is 3.26%. One note for the 2024 rate study recommendation, city utility rates for water and sewer will not increase for 2026. Stormwater rates for 26 will increase by 12%. Next slide. So these are fees that are increased by the preceding 2-year November to October average ENRCCI rate, which is 2.54% for 2026. And then the rates updated twice annually by ICCR. So other fees reviewed annually and adjusted are our Big Rock ball field and our facility rental increased by CPIU, which is 3.26%. Staff hourly rates are adjusted to reflect current personnel salary, benefits and overhead expenses. We have filming permit fees that have been added for 2026. Our public record fees have been increased and reconfigured for implementation of a standardized fee in line with comparable cities. And a full list of fees for 2026 were provided in your council packet. So next steps are public hearing, discussion, and there can be a decision tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Whitman. And now we will move on to the proposed staffing plan for the Department of Community Development with City Administrator McNabb. I'm very excited about this one. This has been a long time in the making, so go for it. All yours.
Yes, so want to be clear about what this is. This is a proposal. There's no budget adjustment being requested at this time. So this is just a concept to show the city council and mayor about how we could realign this department. It's up to council if you want to see a budget adjustment on this. So at this point, it's just information sharing and a proposal being made for your consideration. Next slide. So I wanted to give a little bit of background on the classification of the directors here in the city. So this is a screenshot from our salary table. right now we have a split in the classification of directors here in the city. So we have the community development director and the finance director at salary scale 110. We have the police chief and the public works director at salary scale 120. Next slide. So this ended up being really light, so I'll have to read a little bit, but tomorrow, if you want to get into it, it'll be, it might even be tonight attached to the meeting link. So kind of looking at classification and compensation review, there are some standardized practices in the HR world that you look at when you kind of to think about classification and compensation. And so you look at the scope of control of the position. So how many staff are you supervising? How many layers of staff are you supervising? Tax complexity, the impact of the job to the overall success of the mission or operational success, tax complexity, the budget that is managed, the degree of technical skills that are needed to complete the work successfully, market comparability, and then recruitment and retention concerns if there are any. So kind of overlaying those on our current classification of city directors, you know, there was reasoning that predates me that's split between the city directors. And the reasoning that I could find in the documentation for keeping that split was the span of control is obviously higher for public works and the police chief. They're supervising a larger complement of staff for those departments. And then also the budget for public works and police chief, those are significantly higher than the budget of either community development or the finance team. The challenges of the current system are it ignores the overall impact of the position, either position on the city's success. So if you think about the finance team, having a high functioning finance director and finance team is, I would argue, equally impactful as other director level positions in the city. So would be comparable or should be on comparable terms as those positions. Likewise, I think with the concerns around growth management and business generation and supporting small businesses, a director position that's focused on economic development and community development and planning and building also have an equal, at least an equivalent impact on the city and the city's success as other director level positions. The current structure does not address recruitment and retention issues. Both municipal finance directors and community and economic development director positions are hard to fill positions for the Association of Washington Cities. There are some internal equity disparities that are fairly obvious. All director positions within the city require an equal degree of technical skill, including professional certifications and minimal educational requirements that must be met to be hired. And then in practice in Duval, the community development director was paid stipend for the deputy city administrator duties when this well every month actually, with either when or when they were not being performed, and that was partly a justification because that salary was not on par with the other director level positions. There were other justifications. That was one of them. So next slide. One of the things I did is as I was thinking about, and you'll see in a future meeting, I looked at every non-represented employee because through the collective bargaining process, the salaries of represented employees are reviewed regularly, but we don't always look at the non-represented employees on a regular basis. So that work is in progress. I prioritized this one because we had a need to prioritize this one. I also did a salary survey for the mayor's salary and for city council members, so that will be coming at a future meeting as well. So the methodology for the compensation review was to determine if the position was was plus or minus of a median midpoint. Typically in kind of HR world, if a position is 5%, less than 5% of the midpoint, you would want to do a wage adjustment to make sure that it's marketable and you're able to recruit and retain employees. Within plus or minus 3% on either side of the midpoint, you start looking at other factors. Recruitment challenges, the number of vacancies, that's very distressing. Market factors, and that kind of thing. So when 5% is kind of your range of out of market, 1 to 3% is your range might be out of market and you want to start looking at other factors. For this analysis, I looked at cities between 4,000 and 15,000 because Duval sits at a relative midpoint in population between 4 and 15,000. So if you take that field, you're going to have some that are fairly depressed in terms of wages. I also didn't differentiate between Western and Eastern Washington. So you'll see Chelan and you'll see King County in that range. And the reason I did that is because you're taking a look across the entire state and it ends up balancing out a little bit by taking Eastern Washington and King County and Western Washington cities. Ultimately, it kind of settles in the middle at a relative midpoint. So that was the methodology of that. Taking a look at a statewide analysis, because then you don't have to do all the differentiating factors of assessed value, sales tax differentiation. The other thing about including King County cities, even those that are slightly bigger than Duval, is that's where our staff go. And so when you're looking at recruitment and retention issues, they will leave for higher paying positions that are in close proximity to the city of Duval. So that was a methodology of looking how I looked at the salary ranges for this proposal. Next slide. So some of the other things I wanted to point out is I took some screenshots from the Moth Adams workload analysis. So if you recall, Moth Adams did in 2024 a workload analysis of all of the city positions and the departments to figure out the relative workload and where we potentially had some staffing shortages. So the things that are most relevant for this presentation was the portion of the report around the city administrator office, because again, the economic development or community development director had a stipend for partly performing deputy city administrator work. The Moth Adams report said and articulated in the report that oftentimes that 10% wasn't met, so the support wasn't really there. When you take a look at the city administrator office, it also highlighted that one of the things that has improved over time is communication from the city administrator's office. I'm not going to take credit for that. I think having a city administrator will naturally improve communication. So the fact that the position is filled is a good thing, and it promotes communication both internally and externally. But I did want to point out, as a result of the last budget, we chose not to staff the community or the communications position. So we eliminated that from the budget. It was a temporary position, but we've had to kind of take that work and spread it mainly between Rita and I. So the work that was being performed by an FTE is now spread amongst myself and the community events coordinator. Next slide. The other thing, so the other chart that I wanted to show from that Moth Adams report, when you think about kind of the workload that remained unstaffed and the recommendations from that report, I want to highlight grant administration, because the proposed reclassification of the job from a community development director to a community and economic development director would anticipate taking over grant applications and grant administration that currently, at least, well, from the Moth Adams report, showed relatively unstaffed. I'm doing that work if it's a non-public works grant right now. Next slide. So here are the proposed changes, or a concept of proposed changes. So the first change would be reclassifying the position, the community development position, from a community development director to a community and economic development director. So the rewritten job description was in the council packet. I took a very heavy red line to that job description and totally reframed what that position would be responsible for. So there's an emphasis on being responsive to the business community, having explicit responsibilities for economic development activities in the city, for both kind of business development, working with our business community, working with our builders, but also non-public works, grant writing and management, which again is presently work that I'm performing. It would bring the city of Duval position in line with other comparable cities that have one position that carry both responsibilities. So the building and planning as well as economic development. Currently in the city of Duval, we don't have a position that has a really strong embedded emphasis on business engagement and economic development. I think it's a missing component of the complement of staff that we have. Everybody's doing it, but they're doing it in a other duties as assigned way. Next slide. So the pay grade increase would be from 110 to 120. That's in the material. This pay grade increase would allow to have a market rate position. So based on the information that was in the 2025 AWC salary survey, which is where I took it, the current position is about 2% over midpoint of all of those cities combined. I haven't seen the COLAs for the city, so that will change obviously in January. We'll get another assessment of where our salary sits in the midpoint. It will potentially attract candidates as we go out to recruit this position in the very near future. And then support internal equity between working director positions. That was another emphasis I put in the revision to the job description, is the expectation that it's a working director position, because the proposal will have a very small department. Seeking to eliminate the pay stipend for the deputy city administrator support. That's not because the support is not needed, but instead it's going to reframe, I think, all the director level positions. And the new revised job description has a sentence that embeds it, that any director in the city can fill in as the deputy city administrator at all times, whether they have a stipend or not. So that'll be an expectation for all director level positions. And then finally, this change would take the grant application and administration off my plate, which frees me up time to do community outreach, policy, work on funding issues at the county and state level. I should note that we canceled our contract with the lobbyists. The extension ended at the end of September, so that work now is returning to my plate. So we need to build capacity for that.
Can I make a note to that too? And that was actually a very strategic decision, considering what's occurring at the federal level, the fact that we're well aware that there is no budget likely to be anytime soon from the federal level. And combined with the significant reduction in federal funding to the state, as well as reduced revenues at the state level. We're looking at like nearly $1 billion over the next biennium shortfall. And so the opportunities for actual capital monies has decreased significantly. So it makes more sense for the time being until it turns around to expect more out of the city administrator, the future mayor, and future council in that advocacy role than we have in the past. And I think especially the makeup of this council today, there's a lot of folks that are very interested in that advocacy. And I do expect, based on what I've seen, folks will be putting that time in that's necessary. So I would say that this is, depending on future administration, future budgets, and future state and federal funding levels, that this is probably more like a pause in having representation, because when it does come time for the city to go out and procure funds for our new city facilities, procuring direct appropriations and specific grant funding is going to be critically important, and especially at the federal and the state level, having those contract lobbyists on board is going to be very, very helpful to making sure our timing's right, the city's timing's right, and the right people are in the room to help those decisions get made in a positive manner for our city.
Yeah, the lobbying and advocacy work doesn't go away. It just looks a little different and is brought back to the city when we don't have a person doing it. Next slide. So the second change would be to introduce a principal planner into the departmental structure. That draft job description is also in the council packet, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the thinking on that. The proposal is not to add a new headcount. I want to be super clear about that. It is to fill a principal planner position instead of having a senior planner classification moving into 2026. So right now, as I've been supervising that department, I've discovered that there isn't truly a second in command in the planning side. There is on building. We have a building official and they supervise the plans examiner and the permit technician, but on the planning side, We have 2 employees, but no true kind of second person who can lead and take over the department. And that's not because of competency, but the senior planner job description is an hourly unionized position that is overtime eligible. And so the job description is also written without any supervisory responsibility. So that would create a kind of second in charge of building and a second in charge on planning. That would free up the director level position to really focus on economic development and those strategies, especially in the first 1 to 2 years, as that work needs to be developed, SOPs written, and engagement strategies created with our business community. We would retain, though, the senior planner position within our classification scheme because planning is highly technical and there is a job progression. So associate, assistant, associate, senior, and it's based on certification and years of service. So you don't want to remove an opportunity for promotion or career growth, but you wouldn't necessarily fill everyone that's within the classification scheme. And then finally, this proposal would likely allow the city to offset the cost of on-call planning consultants, which we currently use and have used for years, because you would have a higher level of expectation and expertise within the department. So next slide. This is our current configuration of the department. So you have the community development director, the building official, senior planner, associate planner, and then we have a term limited senior planner that was funded by ARPA, and that goes away in 2026. Actually in March. So at the end, I think we have 1 week into March, and then that position is eliminated. And then on the building side, you have the building official, plans examiner, and a permit technician. We have a term limited permit technician. That position will also end in September of 2026. So that's the current configuration. Next slide. The future configuration in this plan would look like this, where the footprint is smaller than the current configuration because you get rid of the term limited positions, but you build more capacity with a smaller team by having a principal planner. Next slide. And then this is kind of the cost breakdown. So approximately $21,000 pay difference. That's the current pay scale where the community development director was paid with the roll up of the stipend for the city administrator. So that would be offset obviously by a reduction in eliminating the deputy city administrator stipend. So the annual cost is approximately $63,000. The other interesting thing is because there was this DCA stipend, the salary split had 5% of the community development director charged to executive, which is general fund, 70% planning and 25% building. If you change the emphasis of the position where the economic development part is put in, it is more responsive to the building team. So you would change that salary split to 60% general fund under planning and 40% to building, which would amount to less of a cost impact on the general. And then the principal planner is about a $10,000 a year change. There's some cost savings there because you're going to defray the consultant costs for projects that we have for our on-call planner. And then you could also lead to potential revenue recovery by charging back those principal planner services to the developers. So that's the concept. Happy to answer any questions. We can iterate off this. At some point, we'll need to decide the path we want to go because we'll want to open a recruitment soon. I don't have a slide on that, but we're going to try to do that recruitment internally. I will handle that recruitment and see what we can do without hiring a recruitment consultant. The fee for recruitment consultants that we've done for some of our other positions, that's between $25,000 and $50,000. So we're going to try to do this internally, write good material, spread it far and wide before we try to incur the cost of a recruitment.
And I would note that I have full faith and confidence in the city administrator in conducting that recruitment. HR is a huge portion of her background in HR law. So, this is right up her alley and, she's done a fabulous job with other recruitments and I have no doubt that she will do excellent with this one as well. Any questions for city administrator? Councilmember Naplin.
Yeah, I just, I have a lot of concerns about our salary schedule. Placing us higher than cities around us that are much bigger and or have a much larger commercial district. Responsibilities, for example, of a director in Snoqualmie or Monroe or Woodinville or North Bend, those cities are completely unlike ours. We're a bedroom community that's kind of at the tail end of our build out. And we have very little commercial development or even a district to put it in. I mean, you look at these other cities and the amount of, you know, tenant improvements and businesses going in their commercial districts is just astronomical compared to what we face. And I'm just concerned that we are pushing up our salaries and the titles of our positions so high into a realm that really we're just a small bedroom community, and it's just a struggle for me. Because I can assure you, when North Bend and Snoqualmie and Woodinville and Monroe all go and try to figure out their salaries the next time, they're gonna say, well, certainly we have to be more than Duval. Look, we aren't even paid as much as Duval. And we're twice as big and have 4 times the business. And then they're gonna justify going up higher. I just have a lot of concerns of, we're have a very large deficit. And I really understand the justification, but my concern is this is just another incremental expansion of expenses that we can't afford.
Go ahead, city administrator right now. So, I totally appreciate your concern. I want to make sure that we're focusing our conversation on this particular proposal and not kind of all the positions in the city and the overall salary table. This is more of a surgical approach to a single department. It would be my first point. This is not only, the proposal is not only based on where this position sits in the comparability chart for this particular position. It also is based on adding new duties, taking other duties off to be reflective of what's in the Moss Adams report, which says we are still understaffed. Now, I'm not suggesting that we add new positions in the city, but we do have an expert opinion that was done in 2024 that shows the serious deficiencies in certain staffing areas. I think we can get there, and I think we can figure out how to staff certain bodies of work, and this would be one approach to do that. And the third point I would make is there is a concern around internal equity, and that is a significant concern. It is very difficult to have a city that has built-in inherent inequities in their staffing model, and this is a proposal to adjust that. But I absolutely appreciate that there are lots of really good opinions on this, and there are pros and cons to the approach, which is why I brought you a concept and a proposal and for you all to consider.
Great. Councilmember Supple.
Yeah, the economic development portion of this position. Aren't grants currently developed by both the planning director and the public works director, aren't they? So is the plan to move all the grant application to this single position?
No. So public works grants would still be housed in public works because they're hyper technical, and frankly, Steve's team is really good at it. So no, non-public works grants would stay there. But the economic development grants, the grants we get for community events, for strategic projects, state grants that aren't roads, streets, etc. All that other economic development, kind of civilian economic development activities will go to this position, including the grant that we are going to write next month. That'll be me writing it to submit to the CJTC.
Any other council members? Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
I don't want to jump in front of anyone, excuse me. You know, in setting aside sort of the broader just concerns about budget, and albeit we're in a good place, sort of coming into the mid biennium, but I know looking outward, you know, that's always a concern. You know, I actually put sort of front and center the organizational health equity piece, because I think a well-functioning organization, there needs to be some parity, particularly amongst peers at a certain level. So, you know, while that's not a primary driver for this, I think it can't be underevaluated in terms of the importance of that particular factor in terms of the long-term health. I think that also feeds into some of the retention challenges in both folks looking out external when they don't feel that they're being recognized or on par with their peers. I also like some of the realignment. I think it does acknowledge, you know, we've heard a lot over this coming year around the increase in unfunded mandates and legislative, you know, issues, the compliance timelines that have tightened up, the potential legal risk to the city. I think it recognizes some of the importance and the impact that this role has. I think the other piece that city administrator called out earlier is sort of the reworking of some of the enforcement. That's another piece that wasn't in your presentation, but we've acknowledged in the past that the city's ability to act on enforcement has been sort of challenged. That also would potentially create some capacity to build out that muscle within the city. And there's potential revenue perspective, but also just around sort of city health and what we want to see. And then I think my last 2 points are obviously retention is a factor, but even filling the position. We went through multiple rounds, and while I have confidence that the city administrator can fill the position, I also want to acknowledge that we went through multiple rounds to try to fill the open headcount that we did have. And then I think the last one that you mentioned is, and that also feeds in sort of a continuity piece, the principal casting the senior planner as a principal role builds in some continuity that we don't have in the current organization. And then I think my last point, and I know this was a sort of a bullet list, was with the principal planner. I think you indicated there was a cost, you know, increase in terms of filling that role, but I think you also mentioned the existing role was a union position eligible for overtime. So there's, in addition to some of the not having to outsource, potential reduction in overtime costs as well.
Yeah, that position does earn overtime and charges overtime. Like for instance, tomorrow at the planning commission meeting, the 2 employees that will be staffing the planning commission will be doing that. We try to schedule it just so we don't have overtime impact most nights. There's some overtime earned on the late nights of the planning commission.
So I'm generally in favor of, you know, obviously that's part of a broader salary discussion, but the proposal that was laid out organizationally, I would be in favor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Olin and then Councilmember McHenry.
Mostly I just want to comment, I really appreciate the methodological approach you took. I mean, it was a broad analysis and you looked at a lot of different variables and thoughtfully, and I think it was great how you pulled that together. I appreciate the lean towards greater equity in our department. I think that's really important. I also really like the considering impact as a metric for compensation. And I also think that the change in compensation is not that great. It's really marginal. And if that's what it takes to have us be competitive, you know, with other cities around us, I think that makes sense. And I do think it's important just kind of for public consensus too, or for the public record. I mean, I just want to underscore the last thing you said. There's a function of ROI here. You know, I mean, there's a small increase, but again, if you take out the overtime and you take out the cost of the contractors that we might otherwise have to be using to do some of this work, it sounds like we're going to come out ahead. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like we're coming out ahead. And so with all those things, you know, generally speaking, this makes sense to me too. I like the rear direction too.
Thank you, Councilmember, and then Councilmember McHenry, and then Phil.
Yeah, overall, I like the proposal organizationally. I think, you know, there's, you know, some added costs, but also some savings as well that might be harder to define. Some are easy, but also I think of ways that, you know, it helps our city and that we need to be, I think, more proactive in economic development. I mean, there's the times we've done plans, but haven't utilized them. I mean, just when you don't have the staff to do those things, not much gets done, obviously. And I know some of our businesses are struggling, and there's a lot in this department that we could do to help it that would have a huge impact. And I think it would have really big benefits to the entire city in terms of everything, you know, bringing in more businesses, like new businesses, letting current businesses expand. So I feel like this is something we've been missing out on a little. I'm curious, you may not have this, but if there's anecdotally other cities where when they implemented like actually devoting staff time to economic development, if there are success stories there. And if you don't have any now, that's okay. It was something I thought of.
I don't have anecdotal stories that come to mind, but here's what I would say from a former HR director position. Or, yeah, if it's not in the job description, you can't hold anyone accountable to it.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to say other duties as assigned. I need you to spend 2% of your time doing economic development. You know, Beth and I might share IT supervision, which we're doing now. But those things fall to the wayside if you're not in your job description and you don't have metrics or benchmarks to ensure that they get that. It just becomes, I have a job description that I'm held accountable to that has all of these things. That's always going to take priority over the other duties that's assigned.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kubel.
I just want to say I really appreciate all the hard work that went into this, and you know, obviously now is the perfect time to be rethinking this position, since we have an opening and the department is in need of restructuring, and it just kind of makes a good sense of flow to me. And I think the net cost, we can't just think about the cost, we have to think about the intangible benefits. You know, that we are gonna retain more quality people and have hopefully a better fit for the position. Will be able to see us through a long haul. And, you know, by raising that pay parity, it's gonna just create retention, you know? So I think it's a win.
Thank you, Councilmember Kubel. Councilmember Supple, did you have anything to say?
No, I'm happy with the proposal. I think it's well thought out, well planned, well documented.
I think we have pretty clear consensus of this one to move forward, but we have Councilmember Napa with another comment.
Yeah, I just wanna express that I have a pretty long memory from being here, and you know, when I first got on council or maybe while I was attending council meetings prior to being elected originally, we've had this discussion, I think 4 times, and we flipped back and forth. When I first got on, like I said at the beginning, it was, you know, there hadn't been parity. You know, we moved everyone up to create the parity, and then, you know, thereafter it was like, oh no, this position deserves way more because of all of these reasons. And I mean, there's always a staff report. There's always, you know, lots of data explaining how important it is that we do this. We did it. I had very strong concerns about the problems with staff and directors not making a similar pay grade, and we went ahead and we created that disparity. And now, I mean, we're leapfrogging, you know, we're creating problems, then we're bringing it back, then we're going this. I mean, at what point? I mean, we're now pushing well above, like I said, cities near us that are much bigger and more complex, and cities that have huge economic development responsibilities. And I'm just looking at, you know, some of the reason we haven't had as much time potentially to focus on that is we were working on the comprehensive plan, the parks plan, you know, this huge build out of all of the residential areas. I do think time will be freed up. Most of those comprehensive parks plans, those giant planning documents only happen once every 10 years. That took a tremendous amount of time. We have more time freed up. So I can hear there's a consensus another way, but like I said, I've seen the same conversation happen again and again, and each time we flip-flop back and forth with very strong justification and we can't afford all of these decisions.
Well, I want to be clear, I brought one decision for consideration.
And I would like to make some comments on this as well, is that we have had a lot of change in 8 years. And some of the people in this room have been either on council or on planning commission and active members of our community, engaged in what's going on in the city for all of that time. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, that, you have to flip-flop at times, depending on market conditions, depending on mandates, depending on what's going on in your community, and having that nimbleness and flexibility to be able to move back and forth, especially when you have positions that are vacated, to identify the needs of your community now, and know that they are different than the needs of your community 2 years ago, is a critically important skill in order to be able to manage your staff, the work, and your budget efficiently. It is true that costs for salaries are going up. However, having hired many, many people within the city, including over the last years with our city administrator in place, there are many factors in which people come to the city of Duval. But if you do not have a baseline salary that is competitive with those around you, it doesn't matter what culture you have, you will not be able to attract and retain that talent. And if you cannot attract talent that can do the job well and knows what they're doing, you end up in situations where you're in lawsuits or you're missing deadlines. And that costs your taxpayers hand over fist much more money. It's happened here, and we have been managing the city to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Putting systems in place, such as having outside workload analysis, outside salary surveys by professionals who that is their life's work, to be analyzing this and coming at it with the most fair and balanced projections and recommendations possible. I do put my faith and trust in those individuals because many, many others do. They don't get to where they are in their careers without credibility. Having Moss Adams do our workload analysis as a highly respected firm, I would be surprised if there's anyone in this room that doesn't trust the work of Moss Adams. They're highly respected both in the public sector and the private sector. These are not decisions that come lightly. And I think of anyone that is in this room and in the city that is no one more well suited to identify what is needed of the day-to-day staff than the person who's sitting in the city administrative role. There are reasons there have been changes at the city, and that's a good thing. We have the strongest staff morale we've ever had. We have full staffing. We are not missing deadlines. We are at risk of missing deadlines on our building if we do not have a properly staffed department. One of the key risk factors that did come out of that workload analysis is the fact that if we do not have the right finance people on staff and others on staff, that it is putting the city at legal and financial risk. And that is something that I know many of us in this room are not willing to do to our taxpayers. As budgets ebb and flow, as needs ebb and flow, you change positions, you eliminate positions, you add positions. That's part of being nimble, flexible, and responsible in both management and budgeting. So thank you to all the council members that have expressed your opinions on this issue. I think the city administrator has clear direction. I know this is an area, especially in the economic development side, that we've been wanting to do for well over a decade, actually, before I was mayor, and the resources weren't there. The opportunity was not there based on what was going on at the time. And so this is a fantastic opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it come to fruition and seeing the benefits to the community and our businesses moving forward. So thank you. Okay, and now we will move forward to our public hearings. We have 2 public hearings this evening. The first one's on the 25-26 mid-biennium review and budget adjustments. And before I open the hearing, I will read the rules of the public hearing into the record. I will also note that the budget presentations have already been made. And so we'll go from there. In adherence to the regulations outlined for public hearings before the Duval City Council, Chapter 9 of the City Council Procedures Manual, any individual seeking to address the council during the designated public comments segment must comply with the following procedures. First, sign in on the provided form specific to the public hearing, and second, thoroughly complete all pertinent sections of the said form. Upon commencement of the hearing, as announced by the chair, typically the mayor, the city clerk will present the chair with a sign-in sheet. Subsequently, the chair will proceed with the agenda for the public hearing. Each speaker will be summoned to the podium in the order listed on the sign-in form, where they must communicate their name and, if relevant, their address, affiliation with any organization or group being represented, and their corresponding role or position within said organization or group. Time limits for speaking engagements are 3 minutes for individuals representing themselves and 5 minutes for those representing a group or organization, unless otherwise determined by a majority vote of the council present. The city clerk will monitor and enforce these time limits, setting a timer for each speaker to ensure adherence. Comments should be pertinent to the subject matter of the public hearing and respectfully addressed to the city council. Personal remarks are deemed inappropriate. Disorderly conduct, including disruptive behaviors such as booing or harassment, will not be tolerated and may result in removal from the premises. Speakers may alternatively submit written statements, which will be added to the official record by the city clerk. Questions posed during the hearing will not be answered immediately, but may be addressed at the chair's discretion following the close of the comment period. Copies of city council and public hearing procedures will be available upon request and distributed to the attendees at the outset of each public hearing session conducted by the Duval City Council. And with that, I'll open hearing for the 2025-2026 mid-biennium review and budget adjustments. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? No, we do not. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to provide comment this evening that had not signed up? All right, seeing none, we will hold that public hearing open until November 18th, and we'll move on to the next public hearing, the 2025-2026 revenues and 2026 property tax levy and fee schedule. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? No, we do not. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to provide public comment this evening? Seeing none, that public hearing is now closed. And with that, now we will move on to our existing business. Agenda Bill 25-47 is our first item for discussion and or decision. Director Steve Laniszewski from Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, citizens, Steve Laniszewski, Public Works. No new information provided in the packet for you this time over and above what was at the last meeting. So if there aren't any other questions, you are free to make a motion. Bring 28 acres in the city.
All right, Councilmember Sepple.
Yeah, I move to approve Agenda Bill 2547, adopting an ordinance annexing the city-owned property around the Big Rock ball fields for municipal purposes and incorporating the property within the Duval City corporate limits.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Moving on to Agenda Bill 25-52, 25-26 mid-biennium review and budget adjustments. And I will remind council that we need to keep the discussion to the mid-biennium adjustments. So beyond that, I will be redirecting folks to that topic at hand. So with that, are there any questions from council? Councilmember Olin.
Just a point of clarification, and if this is not germane, feel free. I received a lot of questions and comments recently about a significant deficit, and Councilmember Nachman referenced one earlier. When I reviewed this document and your report earlier, what seemed to me to be the deficit seemed actually to be a drawdown of expenses from last year, and with the exception of the depot building and the $11,000 of grants. So I want to make sure, am I missing something or can you help expand on that?
So our general fund budget is built using a portion of our balance. So our 25-26 biennial budget just for general fund is not in balance. So our expenditures are budgeted slightly more than our revenue.
Slightly.
In my head, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So it's I want to say close to maybe 900,000 in cash that we're using. But as we have experienced in last year's budget, we had budgeted using over $1 million. We only used 500,000 of our cash balance to make by the time. So our actual revenues are coming in more than what we budgeted, so that helps bridge that gap. And over 2 years, traditionally, where our expenses are less. So we're hoping to make that amount less. But, you know, experience and actual events will, but we are not using our reserves in our general fund, just available cash balances.
Okay.
Which, if you look over the years, it has happened. It's not the first one.
Pretty standard operating for municipal governments as well, to use a cash balance. I'll just make a side note, because it's the finance director was not here during the time. But 9 years ago, the budget, all of the available cash that was not budgeted to items such as staffing and projects, that money was part of the budget the council approved, and there was no restriction on what that money could be used for. So the mayor could go and use up to their spending limit of what that money was, without council approval. So that provided a false security of what the budget actually looks like and what the budget actually was. So when I came into office, that was something that I wanted to disappear in order to make the budget more transparent and more clear on what the expenditures we're actually doing. And so we've had that in place since 2018 now, which is a pretty big deal. And I think the other thing that Director Rimping, just to add on to what she noted, is that under Washington state law, you cannot have a budget deficit. We are not the federal government. State and local government, state, county, city governments are not by law allowed to approve a budget with a deficit. You have to be able to fund your entire budget with cash on hand. For the newer council members' benefit, most years, for the last 8 years, we've not only not dipped into reserves, our ending fund has continued to grow to the point where we actually do need to spend some of that cash on needed services and projects. And our reserves, including contingency, have almost been full 100% of the time, which is almost unheard of. So it's really strong budgeting processes, really strong forecasting that leads to that, as well as really strong controls on what we actually do spend our money on. Councilmember Naplan?
I just wanted to refer to page 33 of the document in our packet. The general fund operating fund 001, which is obviously our operating fund. The change in fund balance is 1,977,475. That is the change in fund balance over the biennium. $2 million.
And so that is before changes in expenditures, and that's estimates.
Yeah.
So Director Whitman, would you, if you have a moment, I would love to see that question addressed right now, because that's not.
Hold on just a second. Are you looking at the
Page 33 in the packet. It is the fund balance projection. And it breaks it down by each fund. There's also the sources and uses, which is the very next page, page 34, which also shows 001 general fund.
and
And it says change of fund balance.
yeah, that's a copy of the prior year ordinance, of the ordinance for our current budget. If you look at the mid-5 review, the revenue sources. In the first section, it talks about beginning fund balances. It will show updated balances reflecting the amount that we didn't spend in the 23-24 budget cycle that were budgeted. And then what we plan to spend in the 25-26 budget. And then you see our ending balance. We're in a much better place because we didn't spend our entire appropriated expenditure budget. So our fund balance in our general fund is in a much better place. Yes, I'm sorry, I can't get logged into my computer right now. I don't recall off the top of my head, and maybe it is 1.9 million that we budgeted to use in cash. But using that does not bring our general fund reserve or our general fund balance below our reserve requirement. And again, the hope is that we have the biennium to look at potential revenues that haven't been realized. We just implemented a public safety sales tax. So there are other opportunities for revenues to increase during the biennium. And definitely opportunity, because we do end up, budgeting revenues very conservatively. And we have a tendency to make sure that our expenses that we're anticipating are covered. But when you get into actuality, a lot of times you don't spend a full expenditure appropriation budget. So the goal is to work to bring that use of cash down.
Any other questions or comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem Mercer?
I sort of appreciate the work. I know you've started this process early this year and had a lot more time to sort of address. In this particular one, I see the change in, but not the ending fund balance, which is still positive. And as you said, above the reserve value, I think it ended at 3.2 million. The reserve requirement is 1.1 million. It has definitely, it's been drawn down, but that's there have been other sort of positive surprises in terms of the insurance, where we. So the call out, the other call out or specific call out I want to make is, historically the city's been very conservative. So and it's so I think when plan for the worst, hope for the best. This was one of the years where I think the insurance and some other revenue expenditures came in. Revenue came in higher, expenditures came in lower. It was sort of a net positive. At the same time, I anticipate, the whole biennium, that conservative methodology applies for the upcoming year as well. So, while nothing is guaranteed, I know that we've planned for the worst case, and I think there are tweaks that can be made. But in regards to the specific adjustments, which I think is the sort of the core topic here, I didn't have any concerns with any of the changes that were presented, and I think those were in line with expectations coming into that.
Yeah, there are no budget adjustments recommended that would hit the general fund.
Yeah. And then I think, City Administrator McNabb indicated, we'll have an opportunity to present additional changes at an upcoming meeting. So.
Yeah. And I would strongly encourage council that if you have any proposed cuts, please bring them forward. This is the 8th year and I haven't had an official proposal to cut anything that's been proposed in the budget yet. Any other council?
And just one last point was, delighted to hear that 2 of the 4 debts were paid off as well. So that's another sort of net positive. So.
Any other questions or comments from council on this one? Okay, we'll move on to the Agenda Bill 25-53, the 25-26 revenues and 2026 property tax levy. I'd be happy to entertain a motion since this is a yearly item, small budget dollars. And this is something that the council has consistently taken and most jurisdictions take each year to accommodate for the increases in costs, even though it doesn't even come close to covering it. The total property tax increase with that 1% outside of new construction, if council remember from the presentation, was $20,400. So a couple of dollars per resident per household. So would council like to make a motion?
I move to approve Agenda Bill 2553, adopting an ordinance to fix the amount of the annual ad valorem property tax levy for the fiscal year 2026, providing for servability and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Natlin?
I can't remember how it was called out in the presentation, but I just wanted to mention that the expiration of the levy lid lift is a little over 500,000, but it's offset by the fact that we no longer have to pay on the Big Rock Ballpark loan. So about half of that levy lid lift that we're no longer collecting coincides exactly with paying off a debt. So the net impact is maybe 300,000 in reduced revenue once you offset. Does that sound about right?
I'm not sure what this has to do about the 1% property tax. But Director McFinn, please feel free to answer.
Property tax.
Yeah, so that heavy lift did
Yeah.
cover,
Mhm.
Big Rock,
Mhm.
our SRO officer and IT.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Clerk?
Mayor Pro Tem Mercer,
Aye.
Councilmember Olin.
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer, not present. Councilmember McHenry.
Aye.
Councilmember Supple.
Aye.
Councilmember Nutland.
Aye.
Councilmember Coolville.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, clerk. And with that, we'll move on to our last item on the agenda, or our last item on existing business, Agenda Bill 25-54, the proposed fee schedule for discussion and decision. Would council like to make a motion?
I move to approve Agenda Bill 2554, the resolution establishing the city's 2026 fee schedule as presented in the draft resolution.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilmember Natlin?
Yeah, a couple years ago, I think it was, we implemented a fee for the concession stand up at Big Rock Ballpark. It's an amenity that we spent money on when we brought in the bathrooms. It's something the community wanted, not just because nonprofits wanted to make money, but because community members, when they went to a ball game or they went there on a Friday night or a tournament, they wanted the added amenity of having a concession stand open. And what we found is that it wasn't being used. So then we created a policy and then we created a fee. And I was concerned the fee would discourage usage of the concession stand. Because, I mean, you just think about, I mean, we have a farmer's market at Taylor's Landing. How much do we charge for them to rent Taylor's Landing? I mean, it's an amenity for the community that they enjoy. I believe that the community paid for and expected a concession stand that would be run. And if you think about the small little nonprofits, if it's even $60 might not sound like a lot, but the volunteers who would come to open the concession stand, you know, I mean, it's not like a football game where you have, you know, 1,000 people showing up at dinner time, all buying pizza and this and that. And they have all their refrigerators set up. When you have a concession stand open at Big Rock Ballpark, people are hauling in ice coolers filled with ice, dragging it in and out each week, and, you know, running to Costco to get snacks. It is a huge amount of labor to set up that concession stand because it really doesn't have a facility of refrigerators, all of this other stuff. And so what's happened is, I think maybe it's been since we implemented the fee and the policy, I don't think it's been used. I think it maybe it's been used once, I think maybe a couple of times at the most, maybe Director Lenchevsky could let us know. So what I would like to propose is I would like to make a motion that we remove the fee for the concession stand to try to get some usage of it. And we'll find out, you know, maybe even with no fee, no one wants to do it. The community wants that amenity. They want to have that. It adds to the fun of going to the park. And, you know, when the concession stand will be open, people will be renting the fields and we'll be making revenue from that. And so I just would like to make a motion that we either significantly reduce the concession stand fee to, you know, maybe $10 for half a day, $20 for a full day, because no one is going to open it. No one is going to take volunteer time to make 50 cents on a water and it.
So Councilmember Napoli,
So
can
I
I
would
would
like
like
to
to
make a
get your
motion.
motion, please?
I was trying to explain it. I guess I don't have, I can make an exact motion. I would like
That's
to
what
make
we
a
need,
motion.
there's a motion on the floor, so we need an exact motion, please.
We can discuss if we want to change it, but I would make a motion that we remove the fee. And any nonprofit that's willing to come in and run the concession stand, we allow them to use it without cost while the fields are being rented.
Okay, is there a second? And while we're waiting for that, I actually will ask Director Matuszewski, have you had any complaints from our community groups about the $60 fee? And have you had anyone expressing concerns about wanting to do it? I can share a bit of my own personal experience as the groups that I've been involved with don't want to take the time and bandwidth to run a concession stand. Especially with the time that folks are actually up at that field, but Director Matuszewski is the one that manages that, so I'd like to hear his perspective and experience.
Would have been a good heads up to have that data, and I could have made sure we had accurate data, but I know we have only rented it several times. Hasn't been, I haven't heard plus or minus as far as good or bad, otherwise they did it and it went by and they left stuff in there, we had to go back and help them get out. So there is that, and the current fee is proposed at 37 and then 55 and 50 cents an hour. I didn't look at the policy either, but I think there is a difference in nonprofits versus like if somebody just wants to sell their own stuff, there's a way to do that, you know. If a nonprofit didn't take it for a booked weekend, then it could go to anybody, and well, Johnny wants to save for college or whatever it is, they can do that. So I don't know if you would have to differentiate some sort of fee difference if you did go that route for nonprofit versus the kind of leftover use. But yeah, not a lot of use. Whether it's the fee or not, I don't know, but. Sorry, it wasn't greatly helpful.
And just to clarify that Councilmember Napoli was making an amendment to the motion on.
Yeah.
So is there a second to Councilmember Napoli's motion amendment? That's a good thing to keep track of in the future. So the motion, the amendment proposal fails for lack of a second. So we'll go ahead. Councilmember McHenry, do you have any questions?
I just wanted to add discussion on the main motion.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. It's about concessions, but I just wanted to say, I don't support changing the fee in the adopted schedule. I don't know if we could be open to having like a trial, like fee waiver month, or if that would be allowed, and keep the schedule to allow people to try it out, only from my personal experience with the groups I'm a part of that do actually do concessions and have made like over $900 easy on like one meet. Not at Big Rock Ball Field, that, you know, at a different place, but I would be more in favor of, but I'm just saying, like, you know, there's big potential there. The groups that I'm a part of, and so this is a limited experience, it's not the fee for everybody, but just our groups have just really struggled the last few years with volunteers. So they've focused their efforts on other things, but you know, I recently heard of a group who might be interested in trying to do that again if they can get organized. But I just thought that's a potential that maybe we could try a fee waiver for a month or something like that to try and get people hooked into actually using it and see that there's potential there.
City Administrator McNabb.
Yeah, I mean, I think, having myself had children in sports that spent a lot of time at ball fields, so much time. We could do, you know, spring is a big season, so we could do, you know, fee waiver spring and kind of figure out if that will attract anyone. I think that's an innovative idea and would be very easy for us to implement. See if it generates any change in behavior.
Councilman or Mayor Pro Tem Mercer.
Yeah, I mean, just sort of similar, you know, having had kids, it's been a while in sports. I mean, that's my experience, that there actually has been in basketball and other things, you know, the Costco, which they buy for $10 and then sell, you know, for multiples of that. There's actually quite a bit of revenue, but the challenge is getting parents to sign up. So I again, I'm not for sort of changing the consent or the fee schedule in general. I think there is, and we've had this conversation in council in the past around, you know, there's value in having skin in the game. And then, you know, that you're committed to part of the investment, there is overhead for managing that facility, and that when we had the conversation in the past was partially what that was to address. But I'm also not opposed to, you know, experimenting external of the fee schedule, some type of waiver. First time use, or even, you know, again, community outreach or something to generate some interest to see how it goes. But my sense is it's not the cost that's keeping it from being used, it's other factors.
Thank you. And Councilmember Kupel?
And my only input would be, even if there was a fee waiver, I would think they would need to pay a deposit on it. So that if they didn't clean up properly or left stuff and made more work for public works, you know, there would need to be a deposit that would be returned to them if they left it the way they found it. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Owen, did you have something?
I was gonna say the same. I was concerned about wear and tear and people leaving a mess behind and just, yeah.
Councilmember Supple, we haven't heard from you. Is there anything yet?
Oh, no, I don't know.
All right, let's go ahead and call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
If I may, Mayor, are we asking for Councilmember McHenry's amendment?
You didn't make an.
No, you did not.
Yeah, it
Okay,
wasn't a-
I just wanted.
Yeah, getting a suggestion.
Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
We'll let the record reflect, Councilmember Naplan voted no. And with that, we have one item of new business this evening, the Agenda Bill 25-55, resolution supporting the continuation of the Employee Wellness Program. For discussion and decision, Clerk Patero and Deputy Clerk McConnell.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, John Terry, City Clerk. I will yield my time to Deputy City Clerk Kelsey McDonald, who has prepared a presentation regarding our Wellness City program and our Wellness Committee work as well.
Okay, good evening, council. Kelsey McDonald, Deputy City Clerk. I have a brief presentation regarding our AWC Employee Benefit Trust Program and a 2025 review. So, what is the AWC Employee Benefit Trust? The AWC Employee Benefit Trust is Washington's premier local government benefit pool for cities, towns, and local governments. They provide quality, efficient, and cost-effective benefits and health promotion programs. While cities place employee well-being among their core values and demonstrate that belief by developing healthy workplace cultures, the trust provides consultation, training, and programs to help these organizations earn AWC's Well City recognition and receive a 2% discount on medical premiums. When employers place employee health among their core values, they actually create a workplace that enhances employee well-being. Employees enjoy greater health and job satisfaction. The organization and community benefit from more productive, engaged employees, so everybody wins. Wellness programs actually have the power to retain talent. 67% of employees who work for organizations with wellness programs like their job more, and they're just more likely to recommend their organizations to others. So, how do we actually become a well city? We have to meet certain standards. The Well City program provides a framework for an effective workplace wellness program, along with resources, recognition, and rewards for trust members that meet the comprehensive requirement for the Well City standards. I will go into the Well City standards in our next slide. We submit our Well City application, which I currently am working on throughout the year. And the AWC announces the Well Cities at the beginning of the next calendar year. And in turn, if we are a Well City, we receive a 2% premium discount. Here are Well City standards. They are leadership, which means all levels of leadership, directors, etc., so that they support employee health by their words and their actions and being involved. Policy and environment. we adopt health-related policies and environmental support to impact large groups of people and create a workplace that supports employee health. Partnerships, we tapped into resources and influence of internal and external partners to extend the reach of wellness committee efforts. Program activities, we plan wellness activities that are relevant to the employee population. They reflect multiple dimensions of health and provide opportunities to learn, experience, and practice healthy behaviors. Engagement. We help employees move beyond simply participating in wellness activities and to truly engage in their health and assess, evaluate, and report. It's the continuous improvement and process in the AWC wellness program. So here's actually the copy of the application, just so you know what we're working on. So you might be asking, what has Duval been doing to maintain its Well City status? We hold quarterly wellness committee meetings where our wellness committee is made up of staff members from various departments. We organize and put on fun and educational employee events and information sessions. We also make sure to have our Well City application completed by December 31st, including 29 items we need to meet within the 6 overall Well City standards. So here's some fun slides. Here's what we've been doing this year. At the beginning of this year, we issued a survey to all staff to ask them what their favorite previous events have been, ask for their feedback, and maybe possible future activities they would like to have as part of the program. In February, February's Heart Health Month, so we welcome Dr. Gonzalez and Dr. Talavera from Evergreen Health to come speak to us about heart health. The presentation was well received amongst staff, and there were a lot of questions, and it was a good dialogue about preventative care. In March, I attended the AWC Healthy Worksite Summit, where I was able to attend informational seminars, workshops, and trainings, and network to share ideas with other wellness coordinators and committee members. In April, we held a reading challenge where there were 2 prizes given to the people who read the most books, and the person who read the most pages was Indu, our police administrative specialist. She read actually 5 books and 1,140 pages. So I couldn't give her both prizes. So second prize went to Madeline, our associate planner, who read 955 pages and 4 books. May, we also started seeing nice weather roll in. So we did Bike Month, where our top 2 people with the most miles ridden, myself not included, received a prize. Ben Ressler, who's our capital program manager, took first place with 183.64 miles. I was not aware he was training for a triathlon, so I shot myself in the foot with that one. And then Steve actually took second with 117.55.
Electric assist.
I saw a lot often that was going between. We also started weekly walks, where we meet once a week at McCormick Park and we take a 30-minute walk on the trail. They kind of trailed off towards the end of summer, but they are now back by popular demand. It's been great getting to know each other actually out on the trails. I've been having a lot more conversations with employees and coworkers that I may not have otherwise, which is really great. It seems like each week I see somebody new. May was a really busy month, so the Duval Farmers Market also started up, and we offer our $1 employee vouchers, which they're allotted for fresh food or fresh produce and other healthy items. It's designed to encourage employees to visit the farmers market and purchase foods that are healthier options for them. Sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry. Also June, we did have a stroke prevention session and brain health, where we also welcomed Celia Atwell from Evergreen. She came and spoke with us here. about brain health, just overall, and stroke prevention. That was also well received. And people had a lot of questions in that seminar. We definitely slowed down in the summer. Everybody seemed very busy, but we held our staff appreciation picnic at Big Rock Ball Fields. We had cornhole and horseshoes and a catered staff lunch. And then just this past month, we put on a sound bath in partnership with the Yoga Garden across the street from City Hall. I was able to purchase yoga mats through an AWC grant, which was really great. And Sarah Tharrington, she's one of the owners and instructors there. She led a meditative sound bath for our staff members where she plays these crystal bowls and you just lay on the ground and you just kind of meditate and get to de-stress for an hour. It was really well received, including people telling us that they were really nervous and they've been wanting to do a sound bath, even just personally outside of work, but they were nervous to try it. So this kind of opened that door to them. And now they're looking at different kind of practices just outside of work. Okay. Sorry. So Q4. We had our emergency management coordinator, Luke Ecker. He graciously put together an hour-long emergency preparedness presentation for our staff members. I personally learned a lot during this presentation about how the city would respond and function in an emergency or disaster situation and our overall roles as city staff. We are going to be holding our annual chili cook-off on October 30th. Unfortunately, Chief is not here. The police department did walk away with the win last year, but they will have some competition from the clerk's department this year. Right now, we are talking with a few options regarding a staff painting event since it was so popular with staff previously. And in December, we're going to have our holiday potluck and white elephant event. All of this being said, so far this year, we've not even spent half of our AWC budget. We have had considerably more events and participation in these events than previous years. And it has been seen to improve our overall morale, wellness, and camaraderie. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. And with that, does anybody have any questions for our deputy clerk? Mayor Pro Tem?
I just have one. This may be a question for finance director, but I was curious, we do a similar program where I work. I think it's great investment in people. In addition to sort of the wellness, mental health, physical health, it does build a sense of community, which I think is value and gets people to connect across the city, employees who may not otherwise have an opportunity to connect. I was curious in terms of the funding, the supplies, versus the 2%, because there wasn't a number associated with the 2%. I was just curious what that was. Seems like a very small investment regardless, but I would love to put that in context to the 2% savings.
Absolutely. Director McMinn was kind enough to actually give me a very detailed list. So the reduction for Will City is per employee $21.16. If we apply that to our total amount of staff, 60, the annual savings would be about $15,212. And that is, as you mentioned, that's not including also the element of team building and retention, and also just kind of bringing a sense of community in the cities as city staff.
Thank you.
But tell them what we spent.
Oh, yeah. So
Over the past few years, we've not spent.
I missed that one bit. So for 2023, our actual expenditure was $1,220. For 2024, our actual expenditure was $2,000. And for the year 2025 and 2026, I believe that is in the agenda bill.
Like 10,000.
Yeah, it's about 10,
Yeah.
and we haven't even spent
You spent 600 and something.
something like that for this
I
year.
have an
So
invoice,
a great ROI, basically, was what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Any other questions? Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve our resolution?
I move to approve Agenda Bill 2555 for the mayor to sign resolution 2510 to support the continuation of the employee wellness program.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And Kelly, thank you for a fabulous report. It's nice to see so much going on in that space and see the positive impact that it has on all of our staff. So with that, we have no further business. So unless there are objections, we are adjourned. And I know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.